Hey everyone, I thought I'd do a quick video on why I recommend what I recommend and what my thinking is behind that recommendation. So I'm actually going to go in reverse order of the four names I posted. So I'm going to start with retirement and where I recommend Fidelity. Now there are some ways to directly hold Bitcoin yourself in self-custody in a retirement account. The most common is Unchained Capital, but I don't recommend it because it's technically it's technically quite difficult. There's seed phrases, you have to stamp them in metal plates, you got to not lose them, you got to make sure a hacker doesn't see them. It's technically I just can't recommend it for anybody but like really technically sophisticated people who really want to go sort of deep down that road. So even though it's not ideal for Fidelity to hold your Bitcoin in a retirement account, I also think that retirement accounts are the safest from government confiscation. The likelihood that the government is going to confiscate a Bitcoin in a retirement account is less than the likelihood that they would confiscate it at just being held in a custody or a brokerage account. And obviously they can't they can't confiscate it if it's held in Bitkey in your own self-custody. But for retirement accounts, because there's not currently an elegant way of holding Bitcoin in Bitkey in a retirement account, at least not that I am aware of, that leaves the sort of best option that's super easy to use for everyone, Fidelity. Fidelity does hold the Bitcoin on your behalf. They hold it in their own custody. They do not depend on Coinbase or anyone else. They hold it literally, in their own, ultra secure digital vaults on your behalf. And I just found out yesterday that Fidelity for their crypto services is about to roll out the ability for you to transfer Bitcoin directly off their platform into cold storage. Now, I don't think that will apply to retirement accounts, but it does mean Fidelity as a whole is going in the right direction. Fidelity has been involved with Bitcoin since 2014, and which is a long time in Bitcoin, just a few years, or I guess 5 years after it was created in 2009, but much earlier than any other companies got involved, at least companies of their scale. So I'm a big fan of Fidelity. It's not ideal to not control the keys to your Bitcoin the way you can with Bitkey, but for retirement accounts, it seems to me to be a trade-off that is a trade-off most people are willing to make because of the technical difficulty of using Unchained Capital or some service that lets you hold the keys to your Bitcoin in a retirement account. Now, quite a few times I've considered moving my 401k to Unchained, but every time I'm like, I just do not want to deal with more hardware wallets, more seed phrases, more metal backup stamped, more time locks, more geographic distribution. I just don't want to deal with all that. I've got too much of that in my life already, which is why I've got my 401k, Baumgar 401k, which I converted to an IRA, a rollover IRA, because it has to be a rollover IRA. If you roll it over from a 401k, that makes it a rollover IRA. So I've got that sitting on Fidelity, again, because I just don't want to go tackle setting it up on Unchained Capital. And for the average person, I'm quite technical. For the average person, I certainly would not recommend, doing a more technical approach. So that's why I recommend that. All right. So and certainly there's other options over time. Charles Schwab, says that they're going to roll out custody services for Bitcoin, and there's going to be a lot of services, but Fidelity just seems to be the clear winner. They lead in the marketplace. If you're already on BlackRock, they might already have something similar, but I've just had really good success with Fidelity. I know a lot of people who have also had really good success with Fidelity, and so I recommend Fidelity. But again, it's not perfect because they custody the Bitcoin for you, but it's as close to perfect for someone who does custody the Bitcoin for you as you can get. And Fidelity supports IRAs, Roth IRAs, 401ks, every imaginable form of retirement. Fidelity has you covered, and you can roll it over to Fidelity from another provider. It's great. They do a good job. They have great customer service, everything like that. Okay, so that's Fidelity. All right, working in reverse order. Long-term storage, cold storage, long-term savings. Bitkey, bitkey.world. Bitkey.world is the website. Bitkey is hands down just phenomenal in every way. Every other product I recommend in this video, being Fidelity, Bitkey, River, Coinbase, Every one of them has trade-offs except Bitkey. Bitkey is as perfect as a product can be, and nothing else is even remotely close. Everything else out there, Cold Card, Trezor, Ledger, just you name it, CoinKite, any of the CoinKite products. I mean, everything is way too complicated, way too high risk that you're going to accidentally screw something up and lose your Bitcoin, way too likely that you're going to accidentally lose your seed phrase or get it exposed to a hacker. Like, I just do not recommend any of the other products in the marketplace to Bitcoiners other than Bitkey. Bitkey is as close to a perfect product in the Bitcoin ecosystem as literally it's conceivably possible to create. It's amazing. They knocked it out of the park with that product. It keeps getting better. I love Bitkey. So Bitkey is the only thing here that doesn't have trade-offs. Although it would be nice if Bitkey made it cheaper to buy Bitcoin directly within Bitkey. It's still better to buy it on another platform and then move it over to Bitkey. But I'm hoping that the fees will come down as soon as they add Strike, S-C-R-I-K-E. I'm hoping Strike will have substantially lower fees when it gets added to Bitkey, but that has not happened yet. And the current providers are more expensive than I'm comfortable recommending, which is why I still recommend people buy Bitcoin on either Coinbase or River and then move it to Bitkey as opposed to buying and selling directly from within Bitkey. But anyway, Bitkey is just the most amazing of the products that I'm covering today because there's basically no trade-offs. It's just incredible in every way. So that's Bitkey. To recap here, we got Fidelity, which is sort of the best of the providers for retirement products, 401ks, IRAs, Roth IRAs, anything you want to put in Bitcoin. Fidelity's got you covered. But again, with the trade-off that they hold the keys, not you. But it is sort of the next best thing to holding the keys yourself, even though nothing is as good as holding the keys yourself. All right, so then we got Bitkey, which is like hands down the winner. Nothing's even close. It's not even a competition. Get yourself a Bitkey. It's amazing. I've tried them all, all the different competitors. I absolutely don't recommend any of them. Bitkey stands alone. Bitkey's amazing. Get a Bitkey. All right, so the last category. So let me start with the easy one. For businesses and nonprofits, River is by far your best bet. Nothing even comes close. Absolutely, positively, get an account on river.com, R-I-V-E-R, singular, like one river, R-I-V-E-R.com. Get a River account. It's a no-brainer. Makes all the sense in the world. Get a River account. So the reason I say that is it is much, much, much more difficult and costly to get a business account on Coinbase. Coinbase charges an upfront, non-refundable $1,000 application fee, and the paperwork requirements on Coinbase to get a business account are just about the most painful process I've ever gone through to get any sort of account on anything. It's just unbelievably painful. So, for the vast majority of businesses, unless you're a large business that's going to do high volume buying and selling of Bitcoin, or you need just sort of super high-end custody services and whatever else. But for any small or medium business or any nonprofit, absolutely River targets that demographic and does a really good job of getting you everything you need to make it super elegant. So for businesses and nonprofits, River's sort of the clear winner there. All right, for individuals, which is the category most likely to want to buy Bitcoin, I'm torn on this one because if you're willing to sort of ramp up to the technical, the technicality and the extra complexity of Coinbase Advanced, then you can get cheaper Bitcoin buying on Coinbase Advanced than anywhere else. The problem is it's quite technical. Now, I have a video on how to do it, and, I walk through it and all that sort of stuff. So it's not that hard, but Coinbase just hits you with a lot. Coinbase is constantly marketing random tokens that are one day going to be worthless. And so you have to navigate that. They're constantly asking you and telling you that 0% of your crypto is staked. And they're encouraging you to stake your crypto, which is something you can't even do with Bitcoin. And I do not recommend doing with anything because you should not own any crypto that can be staked. Because by definition, if something can be staked, that means it's not decentralized, which means it's a token or a crypto, whatever, that is not going to retain its value over time. So there's just a lot of complexity, and the fees on Coinbase Standard are very, very high. So if you log in right now as a brand new user to Coinbase Standard, the fees are about 4.7%. It's about 4.74. Now that's made up of a 3.74% fee and a 1% spread, which means they charge you 1% more than the current market price to buy Bitcoin, and you receive 1% less than the current market price when you sell Bitcoin. So a spread is the difference between the price you pay when you buy and the price you get when you sell, as compared to the market midpoint. So anytime you log into one of these apps, and it'll show you the price of Bitcoin, and the price of Bitcoin is showing is always the midpoint, which is the price at which the very last time someone bought or sold Bitcoin. But a lot of these apps, when you actually want to buy or sell, they show you a different price, and that price includes what's called a spread. And the spread that they include adds to or subtracts from the market price on the home screen. So in the case of Coinbase Standard, they charge you 1% more if you're buying, and you receive 1% less if you're selling. So there's a 2% price difference between selling versus buying Bitcoin, which means the price you see on the home screen is the midpoint, basically the price that it's actually transacting for. But if you're buying or selling, you're automatically effectively getting charged a 1% penalty called a spread, which is just one more way exchanges make money. But when you add that 1% spread on Coinbase Standard to the already very high fees, in the case of a $100 buy, 3.74%, you end up with 4.74%. So that's just under 5% less. So you buy $100 of Bitcoin, and suddenly there's barely more than $95 in your account, which is just, those are ridiculously high fees. So I have a hard time recommending Coinbase Standard because the fees are so high. But if you're willing to jump through the hoops of the complexity and, sort of the technical interface of Coinbase Advanced, you can get the lowest possible fees in the market. But again, there's just a lot of complexity there, which is why I'm torn, because part of me wants to recommend the easiest thing with it, which is River. But in River's, you're going to pay a flat 1% plus a 0.3% spread. So buying or selling, you're only ever paying 1.3% to buy or to sell. But you can get lower than that on Coinbase Advanced. It's always higher than that on Coinbase Standard, which means River is always going to be a cheaper place to buy or sell Bitcoin than Coinbase Standard. But Coinbase Advanced, if you're doing any sort of significant volume, Coinbase Advanced is going to be cheaper than any of the other options. So if somebody's coming to me, from the sort of right out of the gate, and they're planning to buy probably less than $10,000 of Bitcoin, I would say just use River, because River is going to have consistently lower fees, and River offers 0 fees for recurring buys. So you only pay the 0.3% spread. You don't pay the 1% on top of that, or 0.99%, I think it is, for River. So the cheapest way to do recurring buys is on River. But the cheapest place to do sort of non-recurring buys is Coinbase Advanced. And obviously Coinbase Standard is the most expensive of those 3 options between Coinbase Advanced, Coinbase Standard, and River. But anyway, so it's definitely difficult if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I want to buy some Bitcoin, where should I go? The other thing that makes it difficult is the Coinbase debit card is only available from Coinbase. So there's no debit card equivalent on River, which means if somebody has Bitcoin on River, there's no good way to spend that Bitcoin other than to liquidate it to US dollars. And then you can spend it, you can push that money over to a debit card or a credit card, or you can buy everything with a credit card and pay it off with your River account. But that's just not the same as actually spending Bitcoin on everything you buy, which is what I do. So my world is made up of retirement accounts on Fidelity, lots of different Bitkeys, geographically distributed, super hard to get to, super secure, time locks, dogs, armed guards, all the crazy stuff that crazy people like me do. So my, sort of secure long-term storage of Bitcoin is very hard for me to get to, and that's on purpose because it makes it hard for anybody, including me, to get to my long-term storage Bitcoin. And then on sort of day-to-day usage, I almost always use Coinbase Advanced for buying and selling, and then River for anything that involves business accounts, just because it's so much easier to use for business accounts than Coinbase, and it's so much easier to set up a business account on River as compared to Coinbase. Same for nonprofits. So anyway, so that's the sort of the hard part of the equation is people who are new, because I want to on-ramp them onto Coinbase so they can use the Coinbase debit card if they want to, or even if they only buy one cup of coffee with it, they can see what it's like to buy anything in the world with Bitcoin, and they can see how it's instantly converted from Bitcoin to US dollars or whatever the local currency is. I think that whole process of seeing how powerful it is to buy stuff with Bitcoin is just really powerful, and the Coinbase is the only place you can get that experience. The problem is it's a lot harder to onboard people to Coinbase because you can't send them, like River has the concept of a River link, which is I can just say, hey, here's $50 free Bitcoin. I send them a River link, they create an account or redeem it, it's easy. Coinbase, it's much more difficult to do that because there's a glitch that they are in the process of fixing for the last year now, but it's still not fixed, that if I send Bitcoin to an email address or a phone number of someone who does not already have a Coinbase account, the money ends up in limbo. So if they go and create an account with the link from Coinbase, oftentimes they do not actually receive the $50 of Bitcoin, and I have to resend it. And then after I resend it, then in the next day or two, the first send will magically show up out of the blue. So it's a glitch. It's a known issue. Coinbase has been had it in the queue to fix that for months now, but it has not been fixed yet, which makes it hard to give Bitcoin to people, that are brand new, starting from scratch, to create an account. You really have to jump through a lot of extra hoops of getting them to set up a Coinbase account before you send it to them, and you can't send them Bitcoin until they do ID verification, which involves, the driver's license and everything, and it's a 5-minute wait and all this sort of stuff. So River lets you bypass all that. You can just send anybody Bitcoin with a River link, which is just super elegant and straightforward. So usually if I'm giving somebody Bitcoin for the first time, I just send them a River link because it's so much easier than the Coinbase process until Coinbase fixes their process, at which point it will be equally easy to do on Coinbase or River. So anyway, so that's a quick rundown. If what you really value is the Coinbase debit card, and you anticipate having at least tens of thousands of dollars of Bitcoin or hundreds of thousands of dollars of Bitcoin and using the Coinbase debit card for all your expenses, then the one and only place you can do that is on Coinbase, because it is the Coinbase debit card and none of the other providers have something equivalent. If what you value is an easy on-ramp experience, a simple interface, low fees, even for small purchases, and just everything pretty elegant and straightforward, River is a much easier and more elegant place to start, and that you will not get bombarded every second or every minute or every day by alerts on how you should buy this coin or the PP coin or the dog with hat coin or the Trump coin or the Melania coin. Or there's just a gazillion, you don't want to be getting all these prompts all day long for random tokens that are ultimately going to be worthless, that there's no reason to own any of those anyway. So River is Bitcoin only. They don't bombard you with all that stuff. So what would my perfect cryptocurrency exchange be? In my perfect world, there would be which does not exist right now, there would be a cryptocurrency exchange that's basically like River in that it's Bitcoin only, but it would have a debit card and bill pay and direct integration with Bitkey. So if that existed, it would really be the panacea of cryptocurrency exchanges, just somewhere with nice low fees, a direct integration with Bitkey, and a debit card to spend it if you wanted to do that, and all of that. But that doesn't exist. If you want the debit card and the lowest possible fees, you got to use Coinbase Advanced. If you want the easy user experience, Bitcoin only, super straightforward, elegant, that's River. But again, you don't get the debit card over there. Now you can buy everything like Jack Mallers does, or Mallers. I guess it's Mallers because it's an A. Jack Mallers. Jack Mallers, the CEO of Strike, buys everything with a credit card and then just uses the bill pay feature of Strike to pay off the credit card at the end of every month, which also works great, I presume. I've never done that, but I presume it works great. But it's not the same as using actual Bitcoin to buy everything. You're basically just paying off with Bitcoin, a bill at the end of the month, which is it's a different experience than buying everything with Bitcoin and seeing what the actual experience is of actually spending Bitcoin on everything that Visa, everywhere that Visa is accepted in the world, spending actual Bitcoin. Now, it'll get a little bit better because later this year, River and Coinbase are both rolling out bill pay. I expect, this is sort of the rumor on the internet, is that hopefully both of them will end up with bill pay at some point this year. And but I don't expect anybody other than Coinbase to have a debit card that actually lets you spend Bitcoin. I know that's not in the works, or I'm pretty sure that's not in the works at anywhere other than Coinbase, and obviously Coinbase already has it. So hopefully all that helps. Again, my Bitcoin ecosystem is made up of Coinbase, River, Bitkey, and Fidelity, and those are the 4 services I recommend. Coinbase or River for somebody, sort of individual use of Bitcoin. River for, small and medium businesses and nonprofits. Bitkey for self-storage, cold storage of Bitcoin anywhere. You can use Bitkey for a business account. You can use it for individual. You can really use Bitkey for anything. And then Fidelity for retirement accounts, just because the tax advantage nature of retirement accounts means they are more complicated to set up and maintain and make sure everything's right than other accounts, which is why I use Fidelity instead of just self-custody retirement account, because that currently is more difficult. Although hopefully one day self-custody of retirement accounts will be as simple as Bitkey, and when that day arrives, I will absolutely positively move my retirement Bitcoin into self-custody. I just have not done that because there's nothing as elegant as Bitkey for retirement accounts yet. So hopefully that sort of overview of ecosystems is helpful. Love to help you in your Bitcoin journey, and if there's any way I can on any front. I'm always here to serve and love answering questions, so message me any questions you got, and I'm happy to weigh in on screenshots of error messages or communication you got that you're not sure if it's legit, or questions you have, literally anything you could possibly need on your Bitcoin journey. Please message me, and I'm here to serve. Have a great night, everyone. Thanks.